That's all I mean when I say focused, is what are you thinking? Where's your attention? Which thoughts are you honoring? What is active in your vibration? Is it what you want or the absence of it?
I think that's such a hopeful message.
All right, well, let's get started with this amazing conversation. Sheila, welcome, and thanks for reaching out with your question about the subconscious, unconscious. Is this affecting us? Is this affecting our experience? Does it limit us? Does it control? So I've had some videos and different things that have gone out, and people looked at some of those videos, and then a question came up around that. And then when I got your question, I thought, we should explore it. I think that would be useful. Many people have a question about this. So welcome. And maybe if you would like to kind of introduce yourself in any way, and then we'll dive in.
Okay, well, Sheila Massand. You and I connected through the teachings of Sydney Banks, through principles mainly, I think, over the years, part of your Facebook group, and just on your Living Miraculously program with Grace that you run, which is excellent. So yeah, I have been following, sort of stalking you a little bit with your videos, as have many people. I've shared them with lots of people, and I know a lot of people have watched this one particular video that I think I emailed you about. Was the one you did with Deborah Binnen, and I can't remember if it's called something about your past. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but in that one, and this is what I said to you, you brought up she brought up the iceberg analogy of the conscious, the 10% analogy of 10% is conscious, 90% is subconscious, and you talked about but what is it made of? And I see that, and I wrote to you, but I'm still murky, because it sounded to me in that recording that you definitely said, yeah, it's like the boogeyman. I remember that, because that's what impacted me. It was like, oh, so Dominic's not believing that there's a subconscious, or you think he's saying there's some, making fun of it in a way, like there's a boogeyman out there to get us. And I was like, whoa, okay, so pretty much everywhere I look in the world of personal development, and it's more in my awareness now. I mean, this is a while ago that we conversed on email, but I've got a sort of a filter for it, I guess, like, subconscious or unconscious. People are talking about that there, and they're talking about it there, and so I'm seeing it all over the place. And it seems to me that it's a given, like there is something called the subconscious. And I was telling you just before you hit record, I was curious about, how did this start? How did this knowledge or belief or story or whatever you want to call it begin? And I found a Harvard paper that says that Freud made up the term subconscious, and then somewhere along the way he changed it to unconscious, and then somewhere along the way psychologists, psychiatrists, scientists still can't agree on whether it's subconscious or unconscious. And then there are definitions where they're still arguing about it, even now, and they agree that there isn't such, I think they agree, if my memory serves me right, that there isn't a place where this, because when Freud brought this to the world, there wasn't the science that we have today to sort of look into the brain or into the mind, the head, and say, oh yes, that's where it is, And so they're saying it's like a phenomenon, because you can't pinpoint the subconscious in the mind. And recently I've been listening to a company that calls themselves Human Garage. Very interesting. I find it fascinating. I mean, they're all about the mind body health. I'm very interested in that topic. And I heard them say on a video I was watching yesterday, the subconscious lives in the fascia. And I was like, whoa, okay, so there's no doubt in their minds that the subconscious is a thing. Now it's in the fascia, right? So it's like there's a lot of conflicting information out there. It seems to me, as I say, that most, in the worlds that we live in, the coaching world, personal development world, just seems to be a given that the subconscious is something. There is such a thing. So I'm really curious. And one thing I wanted to add as well is I think this is a great conversation, because when I came across you, I know your first sort of where your teachings were with Abraham, the law of attraction. And then you came across the three principles, and I heard you say the three principles just brought that to life more for you. But at the beginning there was a conflict for you, and that's where I feel I am with this, is a conflict. But you were, because both resonated with you, this is what I remember you saying, because both resonated with you, you said it must be my misunderstanding. And perhaps that's where I am now. I feel like swinging between, well, yeah, it makes sense that there's something driving us that we have no conscious awareness of. And then there's this also resonates with me that, and I think I just said that to you, look, when I listen to Rupert Spira, for example, non-dual teacher, he asks, well, is that a belief or is it something that you've actually experienced? And it's like, have I ever experienced the subconscious? And actually, I can't say I have. So that's why I'm like, okay, that's
Yes.
curious. That's curious. So I'm going to hand it. Is that clear? I'm sort of saying, I think my question is there a subconscious or not? We could call it unconscious or subconscious. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think, and the exploration of the question is it will help us to look at what forms the question. So what forms my question will be something that's important to me. So there's something important to me and I can't understand it. It's not making sense to me. So then, because then there's the question then forms from that I'm experiencing or living. So in other words, in this conversation too, and a lot of in the way that I teach is that there's not a separation between our true understanding, our spiritual understanding of who we really are, and this life we are living. And that, I think that's important, because if we think that there's this difference, then we're like, well, let's just have a conversation to the formless spiritual truth, the nature of this, and understanding the nature of that, and so that we can kind of get there. But if we got to a knowing of this, a knowing and a truth, right, it will manifest for us. It will manifest. We will live it. There is nothing we know we are not living, and there is nothing we are living that is something we do not know. And so we can fool ourselves easily, right? Like, oh, no, I know I'm really like this. My true nature is spirit and my true, whatever. And then meanwhile, we're not living like that. So it says, oh, so you actually don't know it, right? Because if you look at your behavior, you actually don't know it. So if we look at this question, what's important about this question? What would arise this question? There's so many people, right? We all, it comes up for many people. Is there a subconscious? Is that what? So where would the question come from? What's important about us exploring this question?
I think a really good context for me personally would be physical health. I have an understanding that, for example, stress. So again, as I'm going to say it, I feel like, well, is this a belief? Is it something you've heard? Is it something you experienced? Well, no, I don't. Yes, no, it is something I experienced. That stress, if I feel stressed, if I feel anxious, it has an effect on my physical being. For me, it's my stomach, my gut gets tensed up, and I have gut issues. I have, an inflammatory bowel disease, which I feel is very connected to my emotions, my thoughts. And because so much of the time I feel like, well, I don't feel stressed. And, feel pretty content, I'm okay. So why is it flaring right now? I don't get it. So for me, it feels like there's something invisible that's happening, beneath the surface, like the iceberg. There's something happening beneath the surface that I have no awareness of, that I don't have an awareness of. So that is what I would call invisible thinking, unconscious thinking, subconscious maybe. Is that helpful? Using that as a context. So that's why it's important for me, because what if that's not true? Then it'd be like, whoa, okay, now I don't even more misunderstanding in a way. But
right,
it would be really helpful, because I think I just accept that, okay, there's stuff I don't know that's going on behind the scenes.
Yes,
and and that's why I'm not well. That's kind of like, okay,
right.
Wouldn't it be great to know what it is? But I don't know if that's helpful or not. So yeah,
and it's interesting, like, see, that's how it lives for me too, like where this idea of subconscious, unconscious. Physical health's a great one, and a lot of people also think about it from everything. Actually, take any subject, they'll go relationship. Oh, I want to be in a relationship and I don't know why. I just have never met the right person. I wonder if I'm sabotaging these relationships. I wonder if there's something going on. Why would I sabotage my relationships? I mean, there must be something unconscious, like obviously I'm not aware of, right? That's going on. Other subjects, oh, my financial situation. I want to have more money. I want to have like this. Wow, but look at my behavior. I just keep overspending. I keep doing this and that. Why am I doing that when this is what I really want? I can't explain why I'm doing these things. It's got to be in my subconscious. It's got to be a hidden belief. There's got to be something there, and it's undermining me, right? So this is why it becomes important. Oftentimes, I think the question arises because there is something unwanted in my life. This is the thing. It's something unwanted in my life, and there's no way that I'm putting it there. So explain it. How can I have this unwanted thing going on in my life? And I know it's not me putting it there, and I know it's not me creating it, right? And by the way, if you go on my website, I'm the one who says on the website, you create your own reality. You're doing it with thought. And so then people will say, well, let me tell you something. Look at my financial situation. I am not creating that, right? So, so this is where this comes about, right? Maybe the iceberg thing would be good to just put everyone on the same page about it. The creation is the top of the iceberg in the way most people talk about creation, because it's what we can all see and hear and smell and taste and touch as physical beings. So the top of the iceberg would show you could observe me, you could see my behaviors, you can hear my words, right? So you hear my words, and then my words have some impact. And then as a result of, so you can observe this doing, I can, through my action, achieve and accomplish things. So you will see that I have things, I have a business, I have certain clients. So it's all the top of the iceberg. It's a manifestation, right? And then you go, and because Sydney Banks said, he goes, because that we might describe as form, right? It's an obvious form. There's also non-physical form, but that's obvious form. And Sid described everything in form is an expression of the formless. So there is a formless spiritual energy, the energy of all things expressing into form. And then Sid gave us the formless comes into form first via thought. That's the missing link. He wrote a book. The missing link is thought. Everything in form comes into form via thought. It's a thought energy that brings form to it. Okay. Well, this is good. So at least I know this, all this stuff, all the my habits, my behavior, my very physical body, and what's wrong with it and what's not wrong with it. It's all manifesting through into form, and it's all thought manifesting into form. So then in the iceberg model, it says, well, it's coming from what's not visible. It comes from what's not visible. My behaviors are coming from what's not visible to anybody. All my activity, what I say and do. What do you mean not visible? Well, you don't know my intention. That's not visible. So you could see what I do, but you don't know my intention. So my activity, my words and speaking, the way I respond to somebody, you could observe that, but you can't see the intention from which those words were expressed. You can't see the values from which my behavior is coming from. When the way I am and the way I'm being with people, you don't see what's underneath. That's why it's invisible. It's underneath the iceberg. So psychology uses the model to explain that really it's kind of like your true leverage, our true leverage. If I don't like my habits and I don't like the way I am or something, the answer is not in, well, change them up and talk to people who do it differently and then change them up. Like you should listen more instead of talking. You should be more compassionate with people. Right. And so we're sitting up here in form and like, well, I don't know, like, can you give me some best practices? Like, what do good listeners do? And then we try to change our activity. But here's the problem. You can't move an iceberg at that surface level of form. It's too late. The whole form of it has arisen out of the iceberg underneath. So this is where psychology also points to, and it says, really is like go deeper and find the source, right, of that. Yeah. So now there's invisible. It's thought, it's intention, it's values. By the way, even though we're labeling all of these things, the great contribution of Sydney Banks is to say it's all thought. Mm-hmm. So that is helpful, because it's like, so I'm saying it's intention, it's values, it's my beliefs, it's my limiting belief, my disbeliefs. The Sydney Bank says it's all thought. And that sounds dismissive, but it's incredibly useful, because now that simplifies everything. Oh, so it's all thought. So really, if I would understand the nature of thought, then I would understand. But if I've got to understand what my intentions are versus my values versus my limiting beliefs and all that, I could be into analysis and therapy forever, trying to churn through all this stuff, right? Sid said, it's all thought. He actually said it's all thought at the top too, right? He said, look around you, it's all thought. So there's nothing that's not thought. So subconscious. Okay, so then what's going on is, if the model holds, there is nothing expressed that is not thought within me. There's nothing expressed that is not thought within me. Abraham, I think, has a great contribution on this. It says, and I should clarify this, Sid talked, maybe I'll go further. So there's thought that forms an iceberg, and then the part that is missing that people don't see is what's around the iceberg infinitely, forever going on. And that's the ocean. And that would be more like an energy unformed, right? It has not yet formed, right? And that's an important piece, because when you look, the iceberg itself exists within an ocean of infinite possibility, what Sydney Banks called the energy of all things. That is the formless energy of all things, which then forms and is manifest. That's our creation. That is creation that we're all experiencing. But that energy of all things, the infinite intelligence that forms as this, is hugely important. Right? So if we're not knowing that that's there, we don't know the whole story. Right? And this, I think, in the metaphor is all very important. And then we can ask the question in the context of all of this. And it says, okay, well, all right, that sounded great. That's a load of theory and all that stuff. But the fact is, I'm not in a relationship and I want to be in a relationship. So how do you explain it? And so, well, only going to be one way we're going to be able to explain it. And there is nothing manifest that did not come from this. You could not experience anything. Where the hell would it come from if it did not come from here, right? Like, where would it come? It must be from the ocean, formed into an iceberg that then manifests so that it's perceivable physically. That's the only, there is nowhere else it could have come from, right? And so that's, I think, an important starting point. So we're not looking for it anywhere other than in all of that. So maybe let's kind of go back now to where the question is then.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm following you, and that's everything that you talked about with Deborah, and yeah, watching that video was, I still absolutely 100% with you on it's all thought, everything, it all is, and the infinite energy, the ocean, all of it. It still, for me, doesn't explain whether it's unconscious thought or not. You know, so it's all thought. 100% with you on that. It is all thought. I think I kind of pictured the piece under the water, and just plug in, as sort of a filter, if you like you talked about values and ideas and beliefs, and that's kind of, for me now, it feels like that's who we think we are. It's like that's who we think we are. So everything, so the ocean, the infinite energy comes into form through this amazing principle of thought, and is filtered through these ideas, values, beliefs, and becomes something, you know, depending on all what the filter says, then it becomes something in the form that we recognize and say, oh, that's me. You know, that's me and all my stuff, if you like. So yeah, I don't know, does that make sense?
Okay, the word you brought back, which is essential, is conscious. So conscious. So if we go to Sid and his teaching, there is a formless energy of all things. So now all of it is, let's go before any forms, right? Is just an ocean, a formless energy of all things. It is the intelligence of all things, because certainly if there's ever a thing, it'll be made of this, right? So and by the way, there's lots of things. If we look now at lots of things, we can see solar systems, we can see galaxies, we can see plants and animals and you and I, right? And they are so complex. Like these solar systems have suns in the middle. They got like, it's like crazy. And this stuff is spinning at speeds and all of that, and none of it's crashing into each other. It's like so precise mathematically. It's an incredible intelligence, right? I don't even need to go that far. I can just like look right here. Look at this. Look at my hand. I can pick up a pen with my hand. Oh, big deal. You can pick up a pen with your hand. Well, go ahead then. If it's not a big deal, make a robot and do the same thing. Make a robot and do the same thing. And let's see how there's complexity or not complexity. You would need to have a robot with something to be able to sense. And if it didn't sense properly, it would crush and break this pen. So somehow it must have some feedback mechanism to be able to, the level of intelligence. And I'm not even like, it just happens. Okay. So there's an energy of all things and it's intelligent. An infinite intelligence. There's not any other than that intelligence. This Sydney Banks said is mind, the first principle. In 3 principles, the first principle, mind, the energy of all things, an infinite intelligence. Then he went on to say more. He said it's consciousness. Well, what does that mean? Well, you know that whole intelligence, it's such an intelligence. I'm not talking like numbers on a spreadsheet. I'm not talking like words on a page. Sid said it's consciousness. This intelligence is aware. It's not like it's just like really intelligent information about anything. It's aware, right? It's knowing. It knows. Well, so it's an intelligence that has consciousness. These just giving a quality or characteristic of it. So Sid, what's it conscious of? So you got a second principle. You said it's mind, and then you gave it the quality of consciousness that is aware. Well, what is it conscious of? Aware of what? Well, there's only one thing you could be aware of, and that is itself. It's only conscious of itself. Well, why would it just be conscious of itself? Because there is nothing else. Remember, this is the energy of all things. It's an infinite intelligence. There is nothing else. And it's conscious. Conscious of what? Conscious of itself. Okay, that's cool. That's interesting. And so far, what we're left with is nothing and kind of boring. So Sid said, but there's a third principle. And the third principle is pretty important. There's one other ability it has, or quality to it. Now, I'm not adding anything to this, and neither was Sid. He just kept talking about the same thing in different ways, and he never changed what it is. It's a formless energy, infinite intelligence, and it's a conscious, aware of itself. Now I'm going to introduce the third principle, and I'm going to say it without making any change in the statement and without actually adding anything. So there's an infinite intelligence that is aware of itself. There is an infinite intelligence that is aware of every aspect of itself. Those are the same statements. It is aware of itself. It is aware of every aspect of itself is the same statement. However, in that second thing that I just said, aware of every aspect of itself, we have introduced the principle of thought. And the principle of thought is focused consciousness. It is an awareness of itself and also an awareness of every aspect of itself, every bit of itself. Sid, by the way, as a curiosity, called you and I. He said that who we are is a microscopic aspect of the energy of all things. So he already began to point out the fact that what we are is this, and that principle, he said, conscious of every aspect. I said it. He called it thought. There's the mind, consciousness, thought. Thought being the awareness of every aspect of itself. Thought being that. So you and I, as a microscopic aspect of all that is a thought. And that thought is within mind, the mind. Some people will call God, and Sid used that word too. He said the energy of all things, some would call God, right? So we went there. You bring us back.
Bring us back.
Bring us back.
Basically, you've pointed to what I see as a fact, that we're a thought, we're a microscopic aspect of all that is of awareness. So if I'm going to bring us back to the conscious, the unconscious, the subconscious, I still want to know how that works.
Okay.
So we're this microscopic thought, and everything is made of thought, 100% there with you, including what may be something called the subconscious.
So who are we? We're a microscopic aspect made in the image of the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
So we are made in the image, imagination in the mind, right? Made in the image, made in the mind, right, of the Creator, of God, made in the image being a reflection. So I wanted to bring that up because whatever you are is that. It's a reflection of that. And so what is that? Well, Sid, what did you say that was? That is mind, consciousness, and thought. Oh, so then who am I? You are mind, consciousness, and thought. You are a reflection. And sure enough, when we check, right, we go, oh my gosh, yeah, he's right, actually. I can see a mind. And I get it. I'm conscious. It's conscious, right? And there's thinking going on. And whatever I'm thinking is in my mind, and I'm aware of it, right? So you are an image, a reflection. It works exactly the same way. If we bring the iceberg back, then what happens is what you get a microscopic aspect of this infinite, right? It'll sound funny to call an iceberg a microscopic aspect, but if you took infinite, an iceberg's a microscopic aspect. And now that iceberg has all the components within it. It has mind all around it. It is formed of it. And how did Sid say you form things? Because he helped. He said, goes from formless to form. How did you form things? Via thought. The form of it happens by a thought. So this infinite possibility is formed through thought. And so that thought, initial form, is the bottom of that iceberg. As physical beings, there's an aspect of us that is physically manifested. And I'll just call the physical manifestation goes above the iceberg. So now there's a physical body, there's my words and my actions, which everyone can see. And so now there's a physical manifestation above the iceberg, but much more of me you can't see. Now there's a me I'm aware of. Obviously, the physical is the easiest part, right? Because I totally get that, right? And I can get quiet and be aware of more of me. I notice my thoughts. I notice certain values. I notice all of that. And then there is parts that I'm less aware of. Maybe now we're starting to get to subconscious, right? So there's parts I'm less aware of. And then there are parts that go beyond, right? Once I start hitting into the ocean, it goes beyond. So I often will say that as a human being, I will say who you really are is far more than you think. Who you really are is far more than you think. That's pointing to there's a you that you think you are, and it's manifest. And then there's far more to who you are, far more than you think. And you can get access to all that you are. It's available. You're never disconnected from it. It's the energy of all things expressing as you. If you were ever disconnected from it, to begin with, you'd stop breathing. So that kind of is serious. So there's mind, an energy living you. You are never disconnected from it. So you choose then where it stops. You pick the separation, but it is an energy that is the all that is manifest as you. And so you pick it. And I say, well, I'll tell you where I am. I'm physical. That's it. Okay, well, if that's what you think, you can put the borders there. That's who you are. But what I'm telling you is, but you are far more than you think, right? But now you see how, but my thinking limits my experience. My thinking limits my experience to who I think I am, right? This is how I create my own reality. I'm creating my experience of me, and no one else is. You create your own reality. You do it with your own thought. So when it comes to this subconscious thought, unconscious thought, if you're creating with it, it is not subconscious. If you're creating with it, it is not unconscious. You're using it to create yourself. There's nothing unconscious or subconscious about it. You're actively creating who you are with your own thinking, and you will always be far more than you think. Mm-hmm. So you'll have to rein.
So I'm curious now about that. So when you say you, who are you referring to? I'm going to read it. I've got the question. I've got a question from somebody that's I said, when I said I was speaking to you, a couple of friends were very keen to have their questions answered, and this might be the place to throw this one in. So, does Dominic believe that as creators, with a capital C, we create all the rules in our world? So, meaning that the idea of a subconscious kind of depends on us. If we think there is a subconscious that has power over our conscious thoughts, then this is what we will experience. As creators, we create all the limits in our world. So it's our inner positioning as creator, or with a capital C, or our identity with a past story, a story, that sort of thing, that makes the subconscious a thing or not. Does that make sense?
It's a great question, and very well worded. And the answer's, right, built into it, right? Because this is saying that the tip of the iceberg, which is the world I live in, the world I experience, physical world, physical life that I am experiencing, is created with my own thought. And which makes sense, because Sid said from formless to form is via thought. The channel in is thought. It's your thought. And then he also said, at first I didn't like he used this word, but I can see why he said it's the contamination of thought, right? Because what he was pointing to is that the pure energy of all things is a pure infinite. It's like a white light. It's just a pure white light. But here's the deal with that. When you fall into that white light, when you are all that you are, you don't have an experience of it. In order to experience all that you are, all experience is relative. All experience is relative. You got trouble if you're the energy of all things. It runs into a bit of a problem because if you're the energy of all things, if you are all that is, how would you experience you? Like relative to what? There is nothing else, right? So, but fortunately, you and I don't worry about that, because what we are is who we know ourselves to be. What we are is who we think we are, relative to all that is. Relative to all that is. This is who I am. Oh, really? Well, so who are you? Well, I'm just this tiny little thing. Oh, okay. Well, if that's what you think, if that's what you think, right? Then of course you are. And so, by the way, tell me about that bigger thing. Well, that thing's the creator. It's the creator of all. It's the creator of everything. And then who are you relative to that? Well, I'm not the creator. Oh, really? Yeah, no, I'm not the creator. Then what are you? Well, I'm created, and I kind of like look around. I'm sort of stuck with this stuff that the creator did. I think I have to deal with it. Really? But if that's what you think, then that's the experience you will have. Right? if that's what you think. So you will manifest into an experience that there are things going on for you to deal with. They got nothing to do with you. There are ways you are and ways you are not. None of it has anything to do with you. You're kind of stuck with it, really. I don't know. How did I get to be this way? Oh, you don't understand. It's like your ancestors. It's like ancestral traumas. It's like your race. It's got all kinds of, like, you're just like, you don't have a say about any of this stuff. Oh, yeah. Well, if that's what you think, you will experience that in full living color, in 3D, 4D. Like, you will experience a life of that, a life where you live without a say in stuff, stuck with things that have come to be that you can notice, but you can't do anything about it. I mean, you could. There are people today that say you could go into it. There are people today who say you could go into your past lives. You can do all kinds of stuff, and then you can heal them all up, right? And it's like, well, then you'll have that experience, right? But here's the thing, but you made that up. You are actively thinking that. You are honoring each of those thoughts. So the formless, remember there's infinite possibilities. There's even the possibility of ancestral trauma. You can literally experience that possibility, right? So if you align and calibrate and bring the thought, if you take infinite possibilities and channel them, contaminate them with a thought, then it will limit itself down to an ancestral behavior or an ancestral limitation. You had nothing to do with it, and it's just coming through. What you can do is carry it out. Now, there are processes and people who are really good at this. They've studied it and figured it out, and then they'll help you through a process where you can go back into that thought and then dissipate. Or maybe just don't create it in the first place. And then you wouldn't have this problem, right? Then you wouldn't have that problem.
What struck me when you were just talking about the past lives was I was thinking about hypnosis, because hypnotherapy, hypnosis works on a subconscious, it works on a subconscious level. Like the suggestions are somebody's put into a very relaxed state. I've studied hypnotherapy myself. You put into a very, very comfortable, relaxed state, and then the therapist then starts speaking in terms of what that person wants to change. And people report. I mean, I've actually seen also, and this just come to mind, where I live, there are lots of shows that you can go to and see hypnotists on the stage, bringing people up from the audience and having them do the most ridiculous things in the name of entertainment, ridiculous things. How does that work? So that's another aspect of it as well, right? Because that is definitely, they are not, I mean, I've know people it's happened to. They're not pretending. They're not, it's real. It's real. Yeah. It's true. They have no idea they've done it. They watch a video back and go, oh my God, I have no idea I was doing. How does that work? So that's another piece of the puzzle,
that
right?
Great? Isn't that great to see how you literally have access to infinite possibility? That's a great demonstration of that. If you were not fixated on your thought, you could open up to infinite possibility, right? So you wouldn't have to be you if you weren't so fixated on that thought. And in fact, if you loosen up about it, you wouldn't be you. You could be open to infinite possibility. Now, of course, when you look at how little finite minds do it, like a hypnotist who is following thinking, and then they're doing silly things, and they have you be a chicken and they have you be whatever, right? And so, but notice what it demonstrates, that through a state of relaxation, and Sid talked about this, it's like, you want to be in a state of meditation. He didn't mean meditate. He meant like, and Abraham speaks to this as well when they describe a meditation. A meditation is a quieting, a settling of all thought, a settling of active thought. A distinction is you remain conscious. In meditation, unlike sleep. So when I sleep, all thought settles, and I'm not physically conscious. So I am not creating. All thought ceases. I am not creating from my finite perspective. And equally, I'm not resisting from my finite perspective, which, by the way, interestingly, is why I'm able to fly and I can walk through walls, because I am not physically creating the thinking that limits me physically in sleep. The only trouble with that is once I get conscious again, I bring all my thinking back, right? So meditation tries something else, or a state of meditation is the personal thinking settles, but I remain conscious. So if we look at this and we say, so Sid said it's all thought, there's always a formless energy, the possibility of all things. All of it is contaminated. Let's say it is filtered through thinking, my thinking, and it's limiting possibility, which it sounds really negative the way I said it, but it's actually very good because it's kind of how I experience anything. If I couldn't limit with my thinking, I couldn't experience anything. If I couldn't, I just couldn't, right?
Yeah.
So it's quite beautiful, actually. I'm able to experience possibilities. Otherwise, I could just sit in them. It's beautiful to sit in them, but don't you want to touch them? Don't you want to actually live with them? Don't you, right? So, okay, so if you do that, and now there's, this kind of limitation, the problem is you start creating trouble for yourself because you're like, well, I'm this little person and I struggle with the money thing and I can't do anything about it and I don't know why and whatever. But the why is obvious. The why has to be thought. It has to be a barrier, a self-thought barrier that you're putting in place. Any limitation, any problem you're having is thought constructed. It can't exist and be experienced any other way. You must make it up. So, okay, so I'm making it up and I'm living within it. And then, so Sid's thing and what we talk about in 3 principles is, okay, but do you realize that if you would just quiet your mind, if that active creation wasn't happening, imagine it just settled. And so now there was no, this is never accurate, but we're just going to talk to it like this. Imagine if I settled and there was no personal thinking. In the absence of personal thought, what thought remains? In the absence of personal thought, what thought remains?
God thought.
God's thought, divine thought, pure possibility. In the absence of personal thought, because remember, who am I? I am made of that energy. And I'm made in the image of it. And I am gifted with mind, thought, and consciousness. And I can use it with my free will to think anything and experience anything that I think. And now I cause myself a whole bunch of problems. And I've talked to people to try to solve my problems. And some of them are really experts in my problems, which means that their thinking about these problems is even more detailed and complex than my own. So what I thought might be a problem, like I kind of thought it might be a problem that I might have this bit of limitation, but they've been thinking about it a lot longer. They've told me it's worse than I think. It's actually ancestral. In fact, they've studied it. It's in my very DNA. I thought I had a bit of a problem, like I had a bit of a money limitation, but it's in my DNA, right? And they're expert and they've been thinking a lot more than I have, right? So, oh my God, this is getting complicated. Sid said, do you know if you quiet your mind so that all that thinking would cease, what thought remains? The thought of God. What thought remains? The thought of your creator. What thought remains? The energy of all things. And do you know what's possible in the energy of all things? Do you know what's possible? Anything is possible within the energy of all things. You are a creator. You can be or do or have anything from the energy of all things. What do you want to be or do or have? Well, I want to solve my problems. Bullshit. There's no way you would want to solve your problems if you are a creator. If you are a creator, you would want to create what you desire. You would ignore your problems. A creator would not solve problems. A creator would create what they want. But I have a car and it's broken down. But if you were a creator, you would create a car that you want. You would not fix that one, right? Unless you really like that one and unless there's joy in it, right? So that's the difference, right? When we're playing with these creations, which are contaminated by our own thinking and then get so convoluted and complex that now we're spending our entire life dealing with our own thinking, wasting life away with nothing but thought, our own thought, right? Why are you doing all of this? Because I want to create what I want. I want to live a life that I desire. Do you know who you are? Do you understand who you are? If you would just quiet down, get away from who you think you are, you would begin to touch who you really are. And who you really are is a creator. You can be or do or have anything. Why waste time with your problems? You can create what you want. So this is the...
So when I hear you say that, it feels to me like, you know, I don't know how much time we've got. Perhaps going over your time, I'm not sure, but like I've got other questions written down here, things I've come across. But you know, when you talk about creation, it feels like, does it matter if there's a subconscious, unconscious, given that that's available to us at all times, like the infinite possibilities? We are co-creating, as you say, all the time, 100% of the time. If that's true, and I know that to be true, then do I really need to worry about a subconscious? Let me take it, if I take it back to my health, you know, take it back to my physical health questions. What that says to me is stop worrying about whether you're unconsciously or subconsciously creating something. Consciously look in the direction of creation and create what you really want to happen.
That's so beautiful.
Like instead of worrying about stress creating illness, start looking at what, you know, creating a healthy, well, pain-free, strong physical body that's always working for my own good. That sort of thing, you know, that sort of...
So beautiful.
Create it in the way that I want it to be versus worrying whether that's true or not true, the subconscious, the unconscious.
So beautiful what you're saying.
Fiddling around in the background.
You've created what you've created, and that's clarifying. Isn't that clarifying now? It's like, yeah, you know what? I don't like my body having pain. And I don't like that like sluggish energy. Well, that's clarifying, isn't it? So do you know what you want?
Absolutely.
See, you know what you want better, even more clear than had you not created what you've created. It is in the creating of what you've created that the clarity of what's better, what feels better, what's more true about you. If you were the infinite possibility of all things, would you live in a body that had pain and sluggish energy?
Well, that's what doesn't make sense to me, see? It's like, this doesn't make sense, no.
And that's okay. So as you think with thought and filter infinite possibilities, and a body is experienced that includes pain, there is something I'm thinking and believing that matches this experience. It's like, well, you know, I'm this many years old, you know. You know,
I don't think that ever, Dominic.
You can't expect that I'm going to feel the same way I felt before. Well, why not? Well, what do you mean, why not? Nobody does. I mean, what are you saying? Like, look around. Nobody does. You're not going to be, right? So, is that what you think? Well, it's not that I think it. It's that everybody, so others think it. But my question is that what you think? So do you think what others think? Do you see how easy this is? And it's
collective beliefs, isn't it? Collective
mass
thinking.
Consciousness.
Yeah.
See, in the infinite possibility of all things, is not available to you also what others think? Like, it's not like it's not an infinite possibility. You couldn't exclude it. Otherwise, it's not infinite possibility. It is the energy of all things, right? So you're like, well, that is what happens. I mean, people get older and then it's like that. So as you think it's created, but like you just said, this is now like where you go with creation, is you go, well, this creation is clarifying for me. This creation is clarifying my preference. It is clarifying what feels better to me. And I can look in any direction. Within an ocean of infinite possibility, I can look in any direction. By the way, anything's possible in an ocean of infinite possibility. I'll describe. A body with pain and discomfort can deteriorate and get worse. That's a possibility. Do we know of any bodies that had pain, discomfort, or illness, which have then become better and better and better and better? I think we're aware of some of those. In fact, many of us know Anita Moorjani. We are aware of bodies riddled with cancer and tumors the size of grapefruits, bodies that have died a physical death. We are aware of those bodies having revived and come back to life and continued life in a very different direction. So in a field of infinite possibilities, which is who you really are, sitting in the middle of it, you literally can move anywhere you want, anywhere you look. In fact, we might say that you are always moving in the direction of your attention. We may say that you always create in the direction you look. You are flowing consciousness in the direction you're looking. So as you're experiencing a physical body and its deterioration, anticipating the decline, anticipating what everyone is telling, and reading more about it, especially the people who have studied the way the decline happens, right? And all of that. And whether you are reading the people who are telling you the inevitability about it, or whether you are reading about and getting information about people who are telling you how to fight it, your attention is on the same thing, the decline. Whether I'm resigned to it or whether, like hell I am, I'm going to fight it to everything I got. I'm going to do naturopath and homeopathy. I'm going to do everything. And there's no way I'm going to decline like that. Well, your attention is in the same direction. Law of attraction does not understand. That only understands your vibration. And your vibration is focused on the decline of the body, which you believe is true. And you are now empowered with personal knowledge of the physical things you can do to turn it around and slow it down. So as your attention remains there, law of attraction takes that vibration and expands and expands. But what we haven't noticed is to say, but I can put my attention anywhere. This is why I say to people in my teaching, I'll say, you can be or do or have anything because you can think anything. That means you can focus anywhere you want. Even in a body with physical pain that has discomfort, are you able to focus in a way that sounded like too much effort? Are you able to be in a body and in this present moment look forward to its improvement? Or are you able to be in a physical body that's deteriorating, worried about the continued deterioration? That's all I mean when I say focus, is what are you thinking? Where's your attention? Which thoughts are you honoring? Well, I would only honor the good thoughts. No, I'm asking which ones you're honoring. Well, why wouldn't I honor my good thoughts? What are you reading? Who are you talking to? What is your speaking about? Well, I'm talking about the pain that I'm having and I'm looking for solutions and I'm looking for whatever. That's what you're honoring. Oh, it must be subconscious. No, it wasn't subconscious. I just asked you. You told me. Do you see how people get confused? I want good health. So there must be something subconscious pulling me back. It's not subconscious. You're talking about it. There's nothing subconscious about it.
That feels like habit to me, because I recognize that, because I have been in pain the last few days, and I see that it feels like I want to use a swear word now, it's like so like it's got hold on me. That's literally how it
Yes.
feels. I'm like this, right? It's like
Yes.
it has a hold on me, and I can't think about anything else, like attention, except when I'm in a conversation with somebody and I'm working with some, but being on my own trying to work, I noticed I just keep getting sucked into the pain. I need something stronger to pull me away, which would be in conversation with you or a client or a friend, or even watching TV or something. That's not enough. I have to be really engaged in something. So to me, it feels, it's not subconscious, it's more habitual. Like
it's not so much habitual as it is law of attraction. So law of attraction takes active vibrations and perpetuates them and increases the momentum of them, right? When we look at what happens there is subjects, any subject in a manifested above the iceberg experienced universe, there is that which is wanted and the absence of it. Otherwise, it's the formless energy of all things. It's a pure white light. It's a pure white light. So the only way for me to get like a manifested thing is that there must be the presence of it. I am here. This is me. This is the existence, the presence of me. And notice then the absence of me. Like if you go past that, right? If I know myself to be a physical being, right? Then you will see the presence and the absence of the thing, right? So here, when it comes to that, on any subject like money, relationship, my attention is on what I want or its absence. And on every subject, it goes like that. Once I activate the vibration, that's the experience of the subject. So my physical body, what I want is a healthy, vibrant, energetic physical body. But I got to tell you, my experience is I have discomfort and pain, and I can't move like I used to. Okay, well, that's good. On that subject, what is active in your vibration? Is it what you want or the absence of it, right? So now we know. So there's a vibration there. So that's why it's not so much habit. It's every time I go back to my body, I pick up the subject at the active vibration. This sounds silly. If this were not to happen, physical existence could not be. In other words, imagine I'm in a coaching session, like you said. My mind gets all immersed in a coaching session. I have no attention to my body. Imagine then I come out of that coaching session, I pick up the subject of my physical body, and I'm like ripped with a six-pack and muscular. Okay, we would freak ourselves out, right? It would be like, what the hell is this? So you can't have a physical existence without a perpetuation of the thing. Law of attraction ensures the perpetuation of your physical reality and physical experience, all of it according to your thought and those active vibrations. So your body is always where you last left it. So don't worry, you could go on vacation, do the stuff. You could listen to music and totally immerse and lose yourself in it. When you come back, don't worry about it. Your body will be where you last left it, right? So you can pick it up and at least recognize it, because otherwise you'd know what the hell it was, right? So you'd pick it up, you can now recognize it. Also, your business is where you last left it. The amount of money you have is where you last left it. Your relationship situation is where you last left it. But you are a creator, and you can pick up anything and create it how you want it to be. You can pick up anything and create it how you want it to be. And the way you do that is it's created in consciousness with your own thought. So pick up anything, give it your conscious attention, right? Pick up anything and create it how you want it to be. Create it in the direction of your thinking. Create it in the direction of your thinking. Yeah, but what am I supposed to think? I picked up this physical body and it's not very good, right? So what do you want me to think about it? Well, you can either continue to perpetuate the creation as it is. You're welcome to do that. You can create whatever you want. And law of attraction will help you, whatever you decide. So you can continue to activate this vibration, creating it with ongoing thinking. As I give anything attention, I vibrate with it, I harmonize with it. Law of attraction takes the vibration and expands it and makes it more. Sid gave us a big clue. Abraham says the same clue. Sid said, in all of this, you have wisdom. In all of this, you have innate wisdom. You are not alone. You have access to infinite wisdom. It is within you. Well, how's that going to help? Well, your infinite wisdom is really the answer to anything you want. You can be or do or have anything, and your wisdom will show you the way. Well, why hasn't it shown me the way? How would it show me the way? Sid said, your wisdom is only in a positive feeling. Your wisdom is only in a positive feeling. Abraham says, make nothing more important than that you feel good. Nothing is more important than feeling good. Sydney Banks said, your wisdom is only in a positive feeling. The feeling is because whatever you think you will feel, whatever you think you will feel. So as you pick up the subject of your physical body and begin thinking about it, you will feel it immediately. And so then the question is, how's it feel? How's it feel? I don't know, kind of hopeless, really. Okay, well, that's good to know. So is that good? Is that a good feeling? Is that a positive feeling? Absolutely not. So what's that telling you? Well, my wisdom is in a positive feeling. Wisdom. Wisdom is what? Wisdom is the infinite intelligence. It's an intelligence. It's intelligent thinking. That would be wisdom, is an intelligent thinking. It's leading me. It's leading me to what's good for me. It's leading me to greater aliveness and thriving. It is my well-being. Wisdom is guiding me to well-being. Well, but how do you feel? Hopeless, kind of negative about it. I'm actually kind of worried, really worried. Okay, if you are feeling your thinking, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Well, my thinking feels like crap. Well, Sid said that wisdom is only in a positive feeling. So do you think your thinking is wise? Think your thinking is wise? Well, but I've read a lot of books about this. I've read things. Well, and when you read them, does that make you feel better? Well, it actually worried me a bit. It got me more worried, right? So do you think you are thinking wisely? Because if wisdom is in a positive feeling, then your nonsense is in a negative feeling. Then your unintelligent thinking is in the negative feeling. So you're looking at your physical body, deciding what you want to do with it, and you are using nonsense. You are using unintelligent thinking to consider what you want to do next about your physical body. Wonder how that'll work out. You are using thinking, using my creative power to move in a direction I do not want. And Sid, your wisdom is only in a positive feeling. And so, well, what the hell? What am I supposed to do about it? And by the way, law of attraction's no help. You called it habit. It's more powerful than habit. Law of attraction takes that vibration and expands it and perpetuates it. So then you want to know what the next thought that comes to you is? The same vibration. And do you know what the next thought that comes to you? The same vibration. This is what Sid called your level of consciousness. So you are thinking about this body in a hopeless state, in a worried state, and you're trying to solve it. Well, do you know what thinking is available there? The field of possibilities available to you, of all the thinking and all the possibilities available to you, it will be more of a hopeless state and more worry, right? More of things to worry about. That's all that's available here. And as long as you keep looking in that direction, as long as you honor the direction, as long as you're interested in the direction, you will keep the vibration active within you and then wonder how this is happening to you. I think it must be a subconscious thing. It must be a subconscious thing. Wondering how this is happening to you. You're doing it. You're doing it. There's nothing subconscious about it. It is active. It is apparent. Can you feel it? It is not subconscious at all, right? No, you know what? I think I need to go to a hypnotist or something. I think I need to get at the root of this. Oh, now you've got an entirely new problem to deal with. You're now off the subject of your body entirely. Now you've got thinking to deal with, and you got to get to the root of it and got to get to the bottom of it. Boy, you can keep yourself busy and creating things you do not want for a lifetime.
Seems to be the way it works, right?
Right. I know you had a couple more questions, and maybe we'll wrap. I don't know if
It's up to you. What else have I got here from other people? So one of the questions is, what intrigues me is the resistance we feel at times. We say we want something and we seem to be at war with that thing. It kind of just talked to that, haven't you?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want a physical body, but there's no way, and I'm too old, and I want. So you see how I'm contradicting myself?
Being at war with it, at war, literally. Yeah, it feels like we're at
Every
war.
time I look in the direction, I really want to have more money coming from my business and stuff, but I don't want to work too hard, and I don't want to be like those people who do all that marketing and all that. It's like, oh my God, you're like, this is what I want and what I don't want, and this is what I want and what I don't want, and this is what I want and what I don't want, and your vibration goes all over the place, and you're not aligned to anything.
What about this idea that fascia are the subconscious? Then I don't.
Fascia is what physically? What is that?
Is the subconscious? What's fascia? It's
fascia?
What we're made of. It's the that's the
material, the atoms, the cells.
It's in every part of our body. According to these people, is like it's what comes first, and then bones and muscles are grown afterwards in a baby. So the fascia, that's why they talk about the fascia being the communication system of the whole physical body, and not only the physical body, but the God, let's say. It's the communication. Is it physical? Fascia is physical, it's physical. You can see it. It's
physical. Well, anything physical. So anything physical is definitely reflecting thought. So when people say it's in the fascia, when they say it's in your DNA, of course it is.
Or like trauma stored in the body. That's the same thing, right? Or not?
That, of course it is, if you think so.
Okay.
Epigenetics speaks to activating genetics, not that genetics affect you, right? It could be that your genetics, the fascia, the DNA, all that's physical, is a manifestation of infinite possibility. Your fascia is like that. Your body, your DNA is an expression of infinite possibility. This is why you co-create with all that is. So think something and you can activate that particular thing. You can make that active in your DNA. So that literally in your genes, in your physical body. And so that literally, so did your parents have certain genetic deterioration? Did you have ancestors? Or maybe it's several ancestors ago that you're not even aware of? Well, of course you did. So did I. By the way, I had what they had too, because somewhere we're connected anyway. If you go far enough back, we're actually connected to all of that, all of the deterioration, all of those diseases, all of those things, right? And we say, yeah, but my problems run through the bloodlines. They run through the bloodlines. And Abraham says, oh, it's not the bloodlines they run through. It's the thought lines they're running through. It's the thought lines. Your ancestors' thoughts were, that the sins, the errors, the misunderstandings, the contaminated thinking, the sins of the father are passed to the children. The thinking goes in the bloodlines. Right? It's not the bloodlines, it's thought lines, right? So when you say, oh, it's in the fascia, it's genetic, it's probably my ancestors and whatever. Oh, I have the same thing actually. Well, what do you mean you don't have my ancestors? Oh, somewhere I do, right? So I've got access to all of it. We all do. We have access to every little bit of it, right? So, and you're welcome to activate it. You can activate any of it. So there is nothing you cannot be or do or have. There's nothing you cannot be or do or have. So is it that thing? Well, if I activate it and then you get a scientist to study me, they will see it. So they're not making it up. It's not like they're saying that this is going on and they're lying. It's literally there, right? So that if you activate it, the physical manifestation will show you the evidence of it. And it's always that way. The physical is always an expression of what's formless first. There is no, Abraham clarifies in saying, can you cut out this debate about the spiritual and the material? The spiritual and the material, and there's a debate about whether something's spiritual or material. That which you call material is all spiritual expression. That which you call material is simply physical, is spiritual expression. So it's all a spiritual expression. So everything people say, everything they measure, well, there's science behind this. We didn't make it up. There's actually science behind this. Yes, I get it, because you measured it. And everything you measured is the spiritual expression. That's how you get to measure it. There is nothing you are measuring that is not expressed from the spiritual state. Right? And so that's it. And well, so then how do you explain it? We can see this. It goes from generation to generation, from generation. So it's moving from generation to generation, physically moving. Well, that is one explanation. I got to tell you, can't argue with you. That certainly is an explanation. You know what another explanation is? That if you were to get a generation of people who were thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, they would all have very similar physical expression. I mean, that would be another explanation of the same thing. So lots of explanations, and you're not wrong. That definitely is. But here's the thing. Within our explanations, we open up a world of possibility. So in your explanation, what's the possibility? Well, in my explanation, there is no possibility. You're stuck with it. In my explanation of a physical ancestral trauma, you're stuck with it. I mean, maybe eventually some psychologists will figure out how you could heal it or do something with it. But my explanation and understanding of it, the way it works physically, is you're just stuck with it. You're going to have to deal with it. Okay, well, that was your explanation. But, you know, I said that there are other explanations, like that maybe thought gets carried on generation. It's in the thought lines generationally, like that. And so then you've got this physical manifestation. Do you know what's possible in mine? Miracles. In my explanation, what's possible is miracles. And you know why? Because if it's true what I'm saying, if that's also an explanation, right, then you can think anything. And if you can think anything, then that actually is miracle. Miracles can happen as a result of that explanation. So you can live in a world which is the creation of your own thinking, and you can experience that world, right? And then I love it how the two try to coexist, because then when someone decides not to follow the world, the mass consciousness, I love it when this happens. So then you get someone who decides, who somehow has an ability to ignore reality and create their own reality instead, right? And then what do you get from the mass consciousness? We can just look to anybody who's done it. And you can take an Anita Moorjani, cancer with tumors the size of grapefruits on her neck and all that, dies, physically dies, right? Comes back into that body. The tumors heal within 7 days. She's back into a restored health. And then what does this mass consciousness say about it? First off, it's fascinating to me how there's not much interest in her. That's the first thing. There's not much interest in her. The second thing is that, well, misdiagnosis. She was misdiagnosed in terms of what she had. The woman died. Okay, there wasn't a misdiagnosis. It was well diagnosed, and she died. Right? So how do you explain this? Well, no. And by the way, there's freakish things that go on that maybe we don't know or understand. But I mean, this doesn't prove anything. Like, basically, this thinking is still valid, and everyone should really be following this thinking, right? And you can choose to. Right? You can choose to follow that thinking. You can live in that reality. You can face this reality. But you did not, this is an Abraham quote, you did not come here to face reality. You did not come to face reality. You came to create your own reality. You are not here to face the reality that is here. You are here to create your own reality. You are a unique expression of all that is. It will never be again in the way that it has expressed through you. And you are here to express that aspect of all that is, that has never been before and will never be again.
Beautiful. I love your passion and your passion for creation. Yeah, it's
Yes.
palpable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Thanks for this conversation. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's taken us in a different direction of creation for me, very, very much. Yeah. Not
Beautiful.
To be beholden to, as you just said, we're not, I love that line. We're not here to face reality. We're here to create reality.
Create our own reality. Creators are not here to face this reality and
not
deal
stuck with anything, right?
You're not
stuck with anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's such a hopeful message.
Beautiful. Well, we'll see. I'm going to ask you about your deeper question that got submitted, and then maybe we'll be doing a different one, but we'll see. But in the meantime, thank you for this conversation.
No, thank you.
All right.
Thank
I look
you.
forward to connecting again. Thanks.
Likewise. Bye.